Coming up next, the Bookening debates Ender's Game and provides a state of the show address. Hey everybody, welcome to the Bookening. My name is Nathan. We are back, baby. We are back and better than ever. And that is actually true because Brandon drove all the way to Evansville. Not today, but within the last couple of weeks, he drove to Evansville. We got some delicious pizza at
Pangea World Kitchen.
Pangea World Kitchen. If you're ever in Evansville, I highly recommend that you go to this place. Top five. They serve, weirdly enough, Detroit-style pizza, which is delicious, and also sort of Sicilian-style pizza. They have a couple different styles of pizza, but then they also do Neapolitan-style pizza. Yep, sorry.
And then they also serve Thai food.
And it's all fantastic.
They have a separate little bakery that sells macarons and cheesecake and some other things like that.
Good macarons.
And anything that you order is delicious.
Everything is perfect.
We sat there, we ate some Detroit-style pizza, and we discussed the future of the show. The show, of course, is the Bookening. I am your humble and obedient host. That's Jake Menzel. He has now, for going on 7 years, been the pastor who's a master. Maybe has been 7 years. I don't know. 2013, I think we launched. So, yeah. I think so. Am I crazy?
Yeah. More like 2016. I'm going to look it up.
Yeah, you're right. I'm crazy. 2013 is like when me and Jake launched the Warhorn magazine, I think. I don't know. I was going to say,
we were like just becoming friends probably around 2013.
Yeah. Okay, so fine.
We've all been friends for 10 years yet.
Yeah, but we've been friends for going on 10 years. Whereas the Bookening, we've been friends with our listeners and patrons since 2016. Looks like our first episode came out March 1st, 2016, which means the show is 16, 17, 18.
Well, 19, 6 years old.
21. I mean, I was right. We are actually going into our seventh year, basically. Yeah. But March 2020.
About to hit our 6th anniversary.
Right.
Oh.
Wait a second. I'm terrible at math, but March 2016, March 2017, March 2018, March 2019, March 2020, March 2021, March 2022. We're about to hit our 7th anniversary.
But you carded... No.
Am I crazy?
We're starting our 7th
You started
year.
with 16 and you're counting, but we hadn't done anything yet. So you need to start with 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Makes our 6th anniversary coming up.
You're saying like the day of your marriage doesn't count as your first anniversary.
Right. If you were born in Korea, then you were born 1 year old. But
right.
That's not how we count things here in America.
Is that how they do it in Korea?
Well, I'm sorry.
Yeah, they just mark it by you're in your first year. So you are 1.
That's fascinating. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm a sleeper agent for Korea. Maybe that's what we're revealing today. That'd be a nice 6th season twist.
Be a really weird way to spend your time if that's the case.
Hey, I've been subverting people through podcasting or something like that. I don't know, guys. Speaking of subverting people through podcasting, have I ever introduced the rest of any of us? I'm Nathan. I'm your humble and obedient host. That's Jake. He's the pastor who's a master of reading. And we've got Brandon. This is his 6th year as the scholar who's a baller of books.
That's right.
And we were going to record in person today, but Brandon has COVID, which is very sad. I hope he survives.
He seems really down and out right now.
Yeah.
I got a PCR test this morning in protest. Still hasn't come back yet. So
Rest in PCR test. Rest in power.
Yeah, you know what's fun is that with the new CDC guidelines, my PCR test results will come back 1 day before I would be off quarantine anyways. So I'll save myself a day.
Hey, well, there you go.
A day's a day.
A day is a day.
A day is a day.
And today is the day.
And the day that today is the day that we announce the future for the Bookening going forward. So Brandon came down, we ate pizza, we discussed the fate of the show, and it would be telling tales out of school not to say we put everything on the table, up to and including cancellation, because we weren't really, I don't know, guys, I don't want to knock, I think we did some good episodes in 2021, but where would you guys say the show was going into this discussion?
Rocky.
And
I don't mean
like we
Rocky
were
coming out and fighting.
We were training to fight Clubber Lang.
No, I don't mean coming out and falling to fight Apollo Creed or anything like that. I mean Rocky is it the 5th Rocky where he's kind of on his downward slide?
How many
The movies are definitely on there.
It was a subpar year for
Yeah.
us.
Yeah, I think it was. I think there's some gems in there. I don't want to. So it's hard talking about your own work because sometimes you want to self-deprecate, but then you're like, there's people out there that liked it, and so you don't want to accidentally grab them in the deprecation net. But I think we all felt
idiot
like,
for liking this thing that we think is terrible.
Yeah, how dare you like a thing that we did? So I think there's some good episodes. There's some fun episodes. I think we had one of our best comedy episodes when me and Jake were talking about. Still makes me laugh. The Evansville's love for Walter Wangerin, Brandon, but we had about a half an hour of pure malicious sarcasm towards Walter Wangerin. That was pretty fun.
And all the fans of Walter Wangerin really appreciated that, I'm sure.
I'm sure they did. But it was a lot of fun. And we talked about King Arthur, and we did some good stuff this year, but it wasn't what we wanted. I think our eyes were bigger than our stomachs in terms of our ability to do the show long distance and keep things fresh and find a way to schedule things. Jake is a full-time head pastor of a church with something like 80 attendees on any given Sunday these days. I help out with that church, and I do lots of other Warhorn things. And
we've not even been having services for a year yet, so it's just sort of everything's fresh and new, and things are constantly changing. So there's that side of things, and Nathan running all things podcasting for Warhorn, and Brennan being the CEO of a successful company and father of however many kids he has.
However many kids. Too many. Yeah. Well, that's why they make adoption agencies.
Yep. Goodbye, Elliot.
So anybody want Elliot?
If anybody out there wants Elliot, named after the great T.S., if I'm not mistaken.
That's true. But unlike the great T.S., this Elliot is more of an athlete than a poet.
Well, there you go. If you want more of an athlete than a poet,
pretty
named
good
Elliot.
One too.
Good athlete?
Yeah, he's pretty dedicated. He just got himself promoted to starter on his basketball team.
How'd they do when they played my son's school?
Not well.
What was the score of that game?
I forget.
Oh, okay.
I actually do. I don't remember.
Sure. Well, listen.
I'm not sure my extreme apathy does me any credit.
My understanding is that our 7th grade team beat your 8th grade team by over 30 points.
That sounds right. I seriously, I don't remember.
Yep. The future of the world is a boot stamping on the face of your
So the rivalry here, the interest in the rivalry here may be one-sided, Jake, but I'm glad for you. Well done. Good.
Hey, we were just talking about the relative athletic abilities of our children, and I just thought...
I don't think that's what we were doing.
Oh, okay.
Well, speaking of relative abilities...
Into a competition of your son versus mine? I did.
I never once mentioned
in my own head.
I think this might be a picture of what's about to happen with this debate. My apathy is just going to carry right over.
Because listen, guys, we have to get to the debate, which means we have to finish discussing the state of the show. So 2021...
That's the big thing for this episode, right? Go ahead.
Yeah. 2021...
We want people to get excited by this.
Well, excited by the fact that maybe I'm about to announce that we're canceling the show. They don't know what's coming. They're just sitting here in suspense.
Keep interrupting you?
Yeah. So far,
if
they
say
know
something worthwhile, then maybe he wouldn't have to interrupt you.
I hope nobody interrupts the tears gushing out of my eyes right now.
Yeah.
Listen, guys. So we sat down, we discussed the show, we discussed what we wanted to do moving forward and how we could continue. And we were all I don't know. Somebody else talk and say what happened.
We were willing to put everything on the table, including canceling the show. That's the truth. We were willing to say we'd rather be done and say it's been a great run and we've all grown and life's taken us in different directions, and we're grateful for the opportunity and the ways it fed our friendship and fed our hearts and minds and ways we were able to serve other people. We really just wanted it to be something that we could walk away from if we wanted to. We didn't want to have to keep doing it because of money. We didn't want to have to keep doing it because we've always done it. And we didn't want to agree that we were just going to continue delivering what we think is a subpar product, something that just isn't getting the best of us. And so it was all on the table. And we talked about a bunch of different ways forward. And ultimately we decided
the thing that we decided.
The thing that we're about.
The thing that we decided. We decided we love the show and we love each other and we want to figure out a way to make it work and make it awesome again. And so we came up with a plan.
Right. And the plan is basically this: less episodes. We are going to do longer, much more high quality episodes, at least one a month. So we'll still be
all recorded live and in person.
All recorded live and in person, which, the whole Zoom thing, I'm not saying anything that the culture at large hasn't already said, but that just proved to be a little bit difficult. And we found we just weren't getting the same relational dynamic, which I know is what a lot of people love about the show, is being friends with us and enjoying our friendship. And it's one of the things that we enjoy. This show has always been about three friends who like books just as much as it is about the books themselves, much to the frustration of some people who want it to just be about the books themselves. But it is about us and about processing these things together. And so we would like to continue doing it that way and giving you the best of what we're able to bring to that, which means doing something, if you're familiar with our show Sanity at the Movies, a little bit closer to that. We do less episodes on that show. We don't do one every week, but those episodes tend to be longer and more in-depth discussions of a movie. And I think we'd like to do that with the Bookening, where you'll get the Pride and Prejudice episode this year. And it'll be long and it'll contain context and baggage and everything that you've come to know and love from the Bookening. But we'll have a full discussion as opposed to kind of dividing it up into bite-sized chunks. So you won't, and then I hope we'll be able to do some bonus episodes and some little things here and there to fill in the gaps as we're inspired, as we're able, maybe some one-offs with me and Jake or with me and Brandon or even with other people. But the thing you're getting is one big meaty helping of Bookening every month. And is there anything else to say about that?
I mean, if you think of, if you're a listener who's been here for a long time, the show began with us having one big discussion.
Right.
That we then later subdivided into episodes. And then we got comfortable enough and had time enough and space enough and found enough footing that we thought, we just should record these as separate episodes and get sort of on a weekly schedule and be as current as we can. And we did that for a really long time when we were living together in Bloomington and at work. That just hasn't been working as well from afar. So that's the thing ultimately that needed to change. We needed to reshape the show around the fact that we're best when we're in the room together with each other. And so fewer episodes, higher quality content. We think that's the way forward for us.
Yeah. As Brandon almost knocks over his microphone. Higher quality content like that. Yeah.
Well, we're not in the same room now. So
yeah.
Hopefully this will be the last episode that's the case.
Yeah. Maybe there'll be some fun little bonus things where we get together over Zoom because that's the way to do it. But
the primary backbone episodes will be together.
Right. We've got a really exciting book list, which I don't think we're going to get to do like a book list episode under this new format. So should we just announce the book list?
Yeah.
Right now?
Yeah.
Probably. Should we do a quick rehash of our last year?
I'm really excited you want to do a rehash of last year's? Yeah. I'm really excited about this year's book. Yeah, we normally do something super fun. Got like a fantasy draft or whatever.
Yeah. Well, that's the kind of thing that will become the little in between the crack bonuses as we're able, because I don't think we're going to do a fantasy draft right now because we got to get to Ender's Game. But
we might find that we have time.
Okay, fine. If Ender's Game only gets us 3 minutes of discussion, like the Prophet of Doom over here is saying.
Maybe he's saying he's got all kinds of time since he's stuck at home with COVID, Nathan.
Yeah, that's probably what he's saying. Is like, I've got all the
5-hour episode. I'm going to keep getting closer and closer to my computer.
That's fine. You get as close to that computer. If we can just see, what's the inside of someone's mouth called?
The uvula?
Yeah, if we can just see your uvula, that's my preferred method of podcasting. Okay, recap. Well, so we actually still have some of last year to get to, so we still have to do Fathers and Sons, which is coming soon. We still have to, I guess that's it. We still have to do Fathers and Sons, but...
Well, we're behind on Dickens.
Yeah, well, Dickens was our January episode, so we're behind on that. Let me see here, folks.
But I think they're actually getting flipped to later next year so that we can stay faithful to having Austen in February, right?
Yes, Austen. I think the next big episode you're going to get from us is going to be a meaty episode of Jane Austen. And I am excited about that, as anyone would be about a meaty episode about Jane Austen. Not excited about the phrase "meaty episode of Jane Austen." Not happy
you keep saying it.
Yeah, well, it's self-deprecating, I must admit. And if anyone liked the phrase, then I am happy for them to be caught in the crossfire of my self-hatred. So, but what's exciting is Jake has listened to a lot of our original 3 Bookening episodes from 2016. And he has encouraged me to do the same. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to listen to what we say. I'm going to extract a few of our arguments and quotes, and we will actually be fighting with ourselves, or maybe just patting ourselves on the back and saying what a great job we did. And wow, guys, that was really insightful. But we will be in dialogue with 3 gentlemen named Jake, Nathan, and Brandon. And
very different gentlemen 6 years ago.
Yeah, well, I mean, I cannot imagine that episode goes by without me commenting on my matrimonial prospects, and which...
Yep.
That's not the episode where we try to decide who he should marry.
No, that was Mansfield Park.
Right.
But yeah, Nathan's definitely going to be on there talking about how he would never marry an Elizabeth, and how he would hate Elizabeth in real life.
Yep. Just a fanny for me, guys.
Well, we did that on Mansfield Park, but you definitely, in this Pride and Prejudice episode, get into all the reasons why you hate Elizabeth and Elizabeths and stuff like that. I remember that.
I think Nathan doth protest too much.
Yeah, well, I protested all the way
to make fun of Keira Knightley's cheekbones.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my Mr. Darcy.
Yeah.
My Mr. Darcy.
We'll talk about it. We'll relitigate it, as I like to say.
That's a great movie.
Hey, Jake just watched it.
I'm ready to apologize for it just a little bit.
You know, I was with you until I reread the book, which I didn't really do until the last couple days. And then I was like, no, sorry.
I remember thinking the movie's just fine until that ending.
It's really, I think the whole first act holds up really well. And then I think the second act is
Matthew
pretty
McFadyen,
good.
He does fine as Darcy, too.
I think all the big mistake is they just said, hey, let's be realistic. There should be sexual tension between these people.
I don't mind the sexual tension. I don't mind the rain. I don't mind the mud. I don't mind the romanticism of it. I don't really mind the cheekbones. I think she's pretty cute, but I just don't like shy, likable Darcy. I think he just needs to come off as more of an ass from the beginning, and the movie tips its hat, and that ruins. I mean, that is an unforgivable sin, whatever the other qualities. It's
funny. It's artfully done.
If it was just a movie,
a lot. It's great casting all the way around, except for maybe Matthew McFadyen.
I mean, I also think the movie just has more sympathy for Mr. and Mrs. Bennet than book Mr. and Mrs. Bennet deserve.
Maybe Mr. Bennet, it does for sure, but I don't know that it does for Mrs. Bennet.
Am I remembering wrongly that it wants? Doesn't it want to give you that moment where she just kind of sighs, and we see like this is a woman who's desperate to find good matches because that's the only thing that a woman can do. Like, doesn't it just give her something that the book doesn't give her? Just a little bit of, okay, I'm like this, but society broke me.
I don't think so. I think it does a great job of making fun of her. like Lydia, she's in bed moaning and, about Lydia. And then she finds out Lydia's going to be married, and they do she sits straight up into the camera and perks up and starts dancing, going around the room in a way that's just cringe. And
well, the thing I did say to Jake is none of my social set was into Pride and Prejudice, at least the way I remember it, when we were first talking about that book and when that movie hit, and everybody really loved the movie. And so I felt more threatened by it. Now, in my world, the novel has so won that there's just no reason to be threatened by, the movie. And the movie is old and nobody cares about it anymore. I mean, people still care about it, but it's been a while since I've been to a wedding that uses the stupid theme from the movie for the processional. So I think the last one that I went to was my brother's wedding, actually. So in any case, the movie is less of a threat. So I can probably give it some more points and be happier with it and just enjoy it for whatever qualities it has.
Collins and Mrs. Bennet are probably the two best things about that movie. That and the casting of Keira Knightley as Elizabeth.
Yeah, she's great. Also, Pirates of the Caribbean is so far behind us that we don't have to hold that against her anymore. She was that was an obnoxious franchise, and she was obnoxious in it. Not exactly her fault, but the character of Elizabeth Swann is not really one of the great female protagonists, in my humble opinion. Anyway, Pride and Prejudice.
You knew her name.
Yeah, well, I know Jack Sparrow's name and William Turner's name too.
Son of old Bootstrap Bill.
The son of Bootstrap Bill. Anyway, we're not here to talk about Pride and Prejudice, for that matter. Actually, we're here to talk about. Did we finish our state of the show? I guess we finished. Can we close that tab?
Yeah, let's close it.
Okay, that tab is closed. But I feel like there's a tab that was open before Ender's Game. Oh, right. The announcement. So bidding goodbye to 2021 and hello to 2022. So if you guys had to make a fantasy draft, well, here, let me just
from 2021.
What is your favorite book and your least favorite book from 2021? I will give you the list here in a second. And if you had to make a fantasy draft, who would your hero and villain be, and what would it be about? So we read The Brothers Karamazov.
Yeah.
Northanger Abbey.
Mm-hmm.
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Mm-hmm.
Invisible Man. Oh, now that's a good memory. That was a fantastic book. Actually, we did read some fantastic books in 2021, to be fair. Watership Down.
We did. It just lagged on its way out.
Yeah. We kind of broke down as the year went. Book of the Dun Cow. Howl's Moving Castle. Howl's Moving Castle, which I think we have made a lot of Howl heads, and a lot of friends and children that I know are now Howl heads and what's her face heads.
Yeah, my youngest daughter's read all 3 Howl books.
Yeah, my son Jack.
Yeah, Diana Wynne Jones might.
That's what I was going to say. Diana Wynne Jones is.
She takes the W for the year.
Huge comeback in our circles because of us reading Howl.
Because of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just the truth.
Mm-hmm. Daphne Demures, Rebecca.
That might be the
Hamlet. Room with a View.
Yeah.
Call of Cthulhu.
Yes.
Og Schnapp, Schlappy, Bop.
I forgot about that.
Cthulhu. Hey, you guys will both like that just fine, to be fair. And then Ender's Game, which we'll discuss today, and Fathers and Sons, which we haven't gotten to. So I actually don't know what
Yeah.
And if I had to pick a least favorite, it would be Call of Cthulhu.
A least favorite?
Sorry.
My least favorite is going to be Rebecca, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah. That's so least. I don't want to offend anyone, but that's so least favorite. I even just forgot about it.
I liked Rebecca just fine. I think Rebecca's good at what it does, but it is my least favorite from that list, I think.
Guess what?
What?
That's kind of that's my take on. No,
we're getting there. We're getting
my take on that. Rebecca is just fine, but it's not my cup of tea.
Actually,
that little bit of run where we did Invisible Man, Watership Down, Howl's Moving Castle, and Dun Cow was really fun. Yeah. Well, we did Charlie right before that too.
Precisely.
What did we do right before Charlie?
Northanger Abbey, which was fine, but I think the least of the Austins.
Yeah.
And it was coming off of Brothers K, which was something of a downer. Brothers K is the book that I would least want to reread from that list, which I think Brandon will disagree with.
Yeah, no, that's like my actual...
Which one?
Brothers Karamazov. I just don't like Dostoevsky that much.
Is the one that you would least like to reread?
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah.
So I do disagree heartily.
Yeah, well, scintillating podcasting right here. You know, I can't, as far as what my actual favorite book was from last year, I'm going to say it's a tie. Or maybe I'll say there's the adult category, which it just has to go to Invisible Man. I mean, I think that book is a masterpiece. And then the children's category, I'm going to give it to Watership Down because that book is also a masterpiece.
Yeah. The only problem with picking out of those two books is if we threw something into the mix that if you are making a time capsule of Western civilization, it has to take first place, no matter how you feel about it. That's Hamlet.
Yeah. Yeah, Hamlet's going in the time capsule for sure.
Like if you just had to choose a winner from this season, or that had to go in?
Yeah, like a sunstroke is about to kill the Earth, or not a sunstroke, a sun flare.
Yeah. Solar flare.
Solar flares about to burn the Earth to a crisp. We can put one thing.
We can save
capsule.
one thing. It has to be Hamlet.
Yeah. Book of the Dun Cow.
Yeah, obviously.
But in terms of just favorite, yeah, I'm right with you, and I probably lean towards Watership Down, just because I would prefer. I give preference to the thing that I could share with my kids. Yes.
I mean, Watership Down was just great. I mean, Invisible Man felt timely, and yeah, I don't know how to quantify that. Invisible Man certainly has more R-rated stuff.
Yeah,
I think Howl's Moving Castle.
It also has some prophetics. It's really great.
Howl's Moving Castle. Yeah, it's the dark horse. Yeah, Howl's Moving Castle is a masterpiece. I mean, there's part of me that wants to give it.
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah, the only reason Charlie and the Chocolate Factory isn't getting more love is because of overfamiliarity. If we didn't know that story, if we just like discovered it for the first time, if we hadn't seen the movie a billion times, we would be discussing it up and down. That was a strong run. I mean, that was a really strong run.
Yep. I was so pleasantly surprised by Charlie.
Yeah, I was too.
Because I was also pleasant. I've not really ever taken much to Roald Dahl before. And so I just don't feel like I like him. And then that book was delightful and funny and went in a great direction. And
yeah, no, it was great. I mean, I still think if you want to combine delicious style with profundity with...
Yeah, it has to be Invisible Man.
But yeah, I mean, Invisible Man is in many ways the best book. The best entertainment would land somewhere between Watership Down and Howl's Moving Castle really is.
It's really delightful.
Yeah. It's not as iconic as Watership Down, but maybe that's just...
It would help if What's-His-Face made a better movie.
Yeah, it's too bad. If he had, yeah.
Could have.
If he hadn't cast Billy Crystal as Calcifer.
Yeah.
Or Disney or whoever cast the thing on the American shore.
So, by the way, assuming we put Hamlet in the time capsule, here's our time capsule. I wrote it down last time we had this discussion. Pride and Prejudice, Anna Karenina, Charlotte's Web, East of Eden, The Lord of the Rings, and Hamlet have all gone into the time capsule. Things that have been passed over: War and Peace, To Kill a Mockingbird, Huck Finn, My Antonia, Remains of the Day, Never Let Me Go, Emma, Macbeth, King Lear, Watership Down, and Invisible Man are all being fried by the apocalyptic sunstroke.
Yikes. Guess it's fair enough.
What did we give it to over War and Peace?
Is
this a year by year? It can't be a year by year because you put East of Eden in there.
Well, here's what happened, and I don't have like a complete history of this. I'm sure it exists on one of our episodes, but maybe one of our listeners can tell us. So Pride and Prejudice was what we put in for 2016. Anna Karenina was what we put in for 17, obviously.
I'm with it so far.
Charlotte's Web for 18.
And then was 18 that bad? Or were you just that on to Charlotte's Web?
I think we just wanted to save Charlotte's Web. I mean, we did love Charlotte's Web, and Charlotte's Web is pretty lovable.
Yeah.
See what
and then 2019, we chose not to put any book from 2019 in there, but to actually use that slot to go back and rescue East of Eden. I actually have in parentheses rescue written next to East of Eden for 2019.
Fair enough.
So 18 would have been Mansfield Park. I don't know how Ready Player One didn't make it in.
Yeah, that's true.
Remains of the Day, Fahrenheit 451. The Odyssey we passed over.
I mean, I can't say.
All of Harry Potter. Looking back through 2018 was a really weak year. The King Lear, Harry Potter, The Odyssey, Charlotte's Web, Remains of the Day, in Mansfield Park.
Those are the good ones. Those would be like the candidates.
Yeah, well, and Ready Player One, of course.
And Ready Player One, yeah.
Yep.
But we also did Till We Have Faces and A Wrinkle in Time, and so I can see why we pulled Charlotte's Web out of that year. 2019, what did we pass over to go? Was that wait? 2018 was 2018 we saved Charlotte's Web. 2019 we went back in time.
Yeah, 2019 we rescued East of Eden.
So we passed over Great Gatsby, Persuasion,
More than
Alice,
happy to.
Jane Eyre, Catcher in the Rye, Of Mice and Men, The Old Man and the Sea, Witness for the Prosecution.
I have no regrets so far.
All of the Chronicles of Narnia we let burn.
Got to make hard choices when there's
Little Women, The Hollow Crown. So all the Henriade, basically. A bunch of short stories, including The Willow. Midnight's Children we let burn.
That's sad. I mean, I'm not happy that the world's being destroyed by a sunstroke, but
sometimes it's got to happen.
Did we count War and Peace in 2019 or 2020? We must have counted it as 2020.
Well, if so, we decided
Tolkien
to take
over
Lord of the Rings over it, which I regret. I
do too. That was a mistake.
Do you guys want to? I think we've established we can retroactively make swaps. Do you guys want to burn Lord of the Rings and put War and Peace in that capsule? I can't imagine Brandon's going to argue with that.
I mean, I'm sure.
I can imagine the argument we had. I think I vaguely remember it.
Yeah, it was surely that we had Tolstoy and we're trying to preserve a wide range of things. And so let's have the adventure fantasy. Like we have the best adventure fantasy thing of all time here. And we already have the best Tolstoy in our time capsule.
And I bet we chose not to go with The Hobbit because we already had the best children's book.
Yeah.
But I would prefer to reread The Hobbit or War and Peace any day, or Sense and Sensibility any day over The Lord of the Rings. Just going through this.
Can we save, since The Lord of the Rings is so long?
To Kill a Mockingbird. We
passed over To Kill a Mockingbird. Wow.
To Kill Mockingbirds.
We talked ourselves into that. And we just had some kind of logic that allowed us to kill a Mockingbird in War and Peace.
Well, it's not To Save a Mockingbird.
Since we had
and Never Let Me Go.
And Huck Finn is burning. I mean, that's pretty sad.
Huck Finn was burned in the first year, and we didn't go back and save it.
But we could always redo Huck Finn in the future.
Yeah, Huck Finn will just make a capsule space for it.
We're going to have a hard choice with this year's list, but since we have a trilogy in there, can we take the trilogy out and replace it
with 3 books?
With War and Peace, To Kill a Mockingbird, and The Hobbit?
I don't think that's how it works.
It's one per year. It's one per year.
Listen,
technically it's 6 books.
One book of War and Peace is equal to 1 book of Lord of the Rings, if not bigger. I mean, if you're just thinking the heft of space that we're taking up on this capsule.
Yeah.
I just don't think that's how it works.
Oh my goodness.
We got to make this decision, guys. Are we really going to let War and Peace burn over the Lord of the Rings?
I think get Lord of the Rings out of there and put something in its place. I'm all for kicking Lord of the Rings off this capsule. I love Lord of the Rings, but I'm just saying there's any number of books. I mean,
that are far more deserving.
Yeah.
What do we have in
just
there
as
so far?
books?
So right now we just have Pride and Prejudice, Anna Karenina, Charlotte's Web, East of Eden, Lord of the Rings, and Hamlet.
Okay, I'm gonna.
If Hamlet's what goes in this year,
right? Assuming.
I think Jake's right. I think Hamlet has to go in.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna make a vote that's unexpected here. I'm gonna say that we put the best. I loved Invisible Man, but that we put the best American novel in there by throwing in To Kill a Mockingbird.
To Kill a Mockingbird.
So To Kill a Mockingbird replaces Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
I think that's entirely fair.
That's fair.
We've already got.
I think To Kill a Mockingbird.
I love War and Peace, but you could argue we've got Tolstoy's best work of fiction in there with Anna Karenina.
Yeah,
we could win that argument, in my opinion.
Yeah, Yeah, in your opinion.
Well, it's going to be 2 out of 3, and I'm with Nathan on it. So
Yeah. Although they both deserve
But I am
reassessment.
inevitable.
Yes. I am Invisible Man. Holed up in an apartment somewhere. Very sad. Okay, so, all right. Burn Lord of the Rings.
Well, we just lost a lot of fans.
we're not the ones burning it. We're saving what we can save, guys.
Yeah, it's not.
We would
didn't
never
start the
burn Lord of the
Sunstroke.
Rings.
Yeah. Yeah, listen. We're doing what we can.
We're just trying to figure out what's worth saving here.
There's our t-shirt. We would never burn.
Listen, guys. By the way, people, t-shirts are in the mail. If you're a t-shirt patron, I think it's in the mail right
They're
now.
good t-shirts. They're fun.
Yeah. Can I argue? I mean, I love Charlotte's Web, but I kind of want to say,
I mean, if I'm going to a desert island and I can take any 3 books, period, that we read, I'm taking both Anna Karenina and War and Peace and Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah.
And it's not even up for debate. Like,
yeah, I kind of want to kill smash Charlotte's Web with smash that spider with War and Peace. I mean, I just think Tolstoy wrote 2 novels, and therefore that's 2 slots in our capsule. I mean,
smash that spider.
You're with me, Brandon?
Oh yeah, smash the spider.
All right, Jake,
maybe what we should just do is say, what are our top 5 or 10 books? How many years in are we? 6? What are your top 6?
That's kind of what I mean. This kind of is close right there.
Yeah, I mean, now the list is, so I'm putting in War and Peace, swapped with, what did I just swap out? I swapped out Charlotte's Web. So now the capsule has Pride and Prejudice, Anna Kay, War and Peace, East of Eden, To Kill a Mockingbird, and Hamlet.
That's pretty close right there.
Okay, but since we're going favorites and not being principled about it, then let's get rid of Hamlet and throw in Huck Finn or Emma or...
I think those are the 2. I mean, My Antonia is great. Remains of the Day. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff we could put in there, but does anybody want to argue for anything else? So here's the passed over list now reads Charlotte's Web, Huck Finn, My Antonia, Remains of the Day, Never Let Me Go, Emma, Macbeth, King Lear, Watership Down, Invisible Man, Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's just because I'm fresh off of really enjoying Austen again, but I kind of want to just...
Let's just take the best things.
So we're killing Hamlet and putting Emma in there?
I would say either Emma or Huck Finn. I'm with Jake there.
Well, if we want to use Jake's island thing, I would probably take Emma to an island over Huck Finn, although that's tough.
Well, the difference is that between War and Peace and Anna Karenina, you're getting 2 very different sorts of thing. It's Pride and Prejudice and Emma.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, you might just use that spot. I might be tempted to use that spot to add variety.
All right. Well, we've established that we can come back to this, so I'm putting Huck Finn in there for now.
Yeah.
And
we'll revisit.
Yeah, we'll revisit as the years go by.
We'll definitely clean that list up, though. That's for sure.
Yeah. So Pride and Prejudice, Anna Karenina, War and Peace, East of Eden, To Kill a Mockingbird, and Huck Finn are in there, which I think is much stronger. Lord of the Rings and Charlotte's Web have both been consigned to the burn pile, which is really sad.
But appropriate.
Yeah, I mean, there is something, I will say, snobby in me that wants to say East of Eden is not, just as a technical work, it's not the equal of anything else on this list.
It's not. But in terms of its cathartic value, it's up there at the top. So
yeah, I think I would bring it to an island. So, all right, well, that's enough for now, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
So this year's list?
This year's list. All right. So we are going back to Dickens.
What the Dickens?
What the Dickens? Well, I'll tell you which Dickens or what the Dickens. Tale
the Dickens.
Tale of Two Cities. A novel that I believe we have on record as Charles Dickens explicitly saying, I'm going to do less of that character stuff and have a more streamlined plot with lots of history.
Yeah, and he does.
Which I dare say will make it more likable to a certain member of the Bookening.
Maybe. We're going to have to find out.
We will find out.
He could have hated it.
It's possible.
It's possible.
But I'll tell you this, we already know. Ha.
Yeah, we do. But we're going to make you wait I will say his reaction was great. His reaction was, it wasn't like extreme. I don't want to go so far as to say it was extreme, but he either really liked it or really hated it. It was not a lukewarm reaction. Put it that way.
I stand by that assessment of my reaction.
And I'm not even telling you which one of us we're talking about. All right. Fathers and Sons, we still have to get to, so that is actually taking a slot from this year. What's that? Turgenev, yes.
But Pride and Prejudice, Return to Pride and Prejudice comes first.
The Return to Pride and Prejudice, yes. We are finally going back to it in the beginning of year 7.
Pride and Prejudice Redux.
Yep. And obviously, as you can already tell from listening to this podcast, we are very excited to talk more Austen because it's just what a wonderful novel. What a wonderful author and what a wonderful novel. Okay, for our children's, and you'll notice that I'm not assigning months to these because I am being careful not to overpromise and underdeliver or anything like that, but these are the things that we hope to get to. So, Children's Month will be 2 novels, The Little Prince,
Le Petit Prince.
Le Petit Prince, and we will have
Petit Prince.
Le Petit Prince.
Let us know. We have someone who very kindly helped us learn some pronunciation.
Yep. And one of those novels that tends to stick with people if they've ever read it, The Bridge to Terabithia or Bethia, however you say that.
Terabithia.
Yeah. The Bridge to Terabithia.
Terbith.
Well, welcome y'all to Terabithia. So, yeah, we're doing those. And then I guess I can say the scheduling. I mean, it's not going to hurt anything, right? So,
no, this is just our plan.
Yeah, the plan. So in May, so you go like February is your Pride and Prejudice. April will go back to Fathers and Sons.
March comes before April, and that's Little Prince and Bridge to Terabithia.
Yep.
Then Fathers and Sons in April.
And then May is Modernism Month. M is for May. It's also for Modernism. So Brandon will get to talk about modernism, and we will get to read A Farewell to Arms by Arms.
We've talked about modernism before.
Yeah, we'll finally get to talk about some modernism. So we're going to talk about Farewell to Arms, the one major Hemingway novel that I think I have not ever read. So I am excited about that.
Brandon's excited about spoiling it for me.
Brandon's excited about spoiling it. It's got the pine needles.
Read it before we talk about it, Jake.
Yeah, read it and weep. And we are also going to do something that I think was on our list year 1, maybe, but we swapped it.
It's been on and off the list at various points.
And it's been requested by various people. Although it seems like you can guess what we're going to say. But anyway, I don't know. It'll be fun. It'll be interesting. The Stranger.
L'étranger.
L'étranger.
By Albert Camus.
So that'll be fun. Very existential. May. I don't really think of May as being the month of existentialism,
April.
but
It's a very February month. But
yeah, but it's a very
breeding lilacs out of the dead land.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
That's April, though.
I'll show you Fear in a Handful of Dust.
Hey, it's cool.
Here it is. Try not to sneeze. Really shouldn't have showed you that handful of dust. Probably other ways I could have shown you Fear. Listen. June, we're gonna have a whale of a time reading Moby Dick. That's a patron request. One of our fine patrons.
Probably would have never happened otherwise.
No. But I'm excited to get to it.
Yeah, it's going to be great to check that one off the list.
It'll be great to check that one off the list. It's got a chapter about the color white. I remember that much. There's a long
skeletons.
Yeah. What about skeletons?
Got chapters on whale skeletons.
It's got a lot of chapters, that Moby Dick.
A lot of catology in that book.
On a lot of different things.
Cetology.
Cephalogy? Cephalogy?
Cephalogy.
Yeah. Come on. All right. Then July, we are getting, by popular request, to everyone's favorite deerstalker. What do you call that cap that he wears?
Deerstalker.
Deerstalker cap wearing, cocaine taking, violin playing, or heroin? What is he have? This gentleman addicted to?
I think he does both.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about Sherlock Holmes.
Oh.
We're going to talk about Brandon's private life.
Sound a little personal there.
Yeah. No. We're going to talk about the life and times of one Sherlock Holmes Esquire. We're thinking about, we haven't done this yet, so maybe this person will reject us, but we're thinking about inviting Dubstep Danny on as our resident detective discusser that we've discussed many a detective thing with in the past. So some Sherlock Holmes, Dubstep Danny, if that sounds good to you, reach out. August is going to be, that is traditionally Shakespeare month, and we are going to go top tier title here. None other than the two star-crossed lovers of Verona, Romeo and Juliet.
When the moon hits the sky like a big pizza pie, that's amore. When you drink a little poison and your heart starts to sink and then stop, it's because you're dead.
When the priest gets the news...
And your death gives him blues.
Anyway, Romeo and Juliet. Will we like it?
That's amore.
or lump it? Will we be like, well, we know this story.
2 thumbs down for this stinker.
Maybe we'll give 2 thumbs down for this stinker. Hey, there's our t-shirt. 2 thumbs down for this stinker, Romeo and Juliet. September. We talked ourselves into not doing this in October. I forget why. But September is going to be the month of Stephen King. And I still have not figured out what we're going to do because we have to find something that's not grotesquely sexual, which could be a little hard with that particular author. But we're going to read something by arguably the most popular American author of the last 50 years, Stephen King, the Dickens of our time. And so that's the thing that we're going to do. And you'll get more information as we get closer to it. I don't know, maybe we'll try and find a novel, but if we can't, then it'll be a novella or a short story. The guy written a lot of stuff, so.
Or maybe it'll be an interview. Maybe he'll agree to come on the podcast.
Maybe it'll be just an interview with Stephen King. Stevie, if you're listening, we'd love to have you. In October, we're going back to Cormac McCarthy. We're going back to Cormac McCarthy, and it's all the pretty horses. It's all the pretty horses, baby. I'm sorry that we made you read Blood Meridian, but it's all the pretty horses. Yeah, we're going to do all the pretty horses.
I was looking out my window to see if I could look outside and see all my pretty horses, but they're not outside right now. I mean, they are. They're not inside the house. They're just not out in that part where I can see them.
Okay, I'm glad you clarified. What? Your horses are inside the house? Your pretty horses?
They're in the living room watching a movie with my little girl.
What does your little girl like to watch with the horses, the pretty horses?
Well, she's sick, so right now they're watching the complete trilogy of How to Train Your Dragon.
Hey, there you go. She will be an old hand at training dragons by the end of that trilogy. Yeah, so we're going to do all the pretty horses. And what made us choose that one as opposed to the other ones?
It's one of the more accessible ones.
Yes, it's one of the more accessible ones. And we didn't really want to do the road because everybody does the road. And I don't know, it just didn't sound fun to do the road for whatever reason.
Everybody does the road.
Everybody does the road. Everybody
it's one of those books that's been grabbed onto by a certain subset of people that we sometimes pick a bone with.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
Decided, let's not pick a bone this time. Let's just go for one they would never read.
They can have the bone. We'll have the pretty horses.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should be fun.
No more bone picking this year with the Bookening.
Yep. No bones picked for the Bookening.
Isn't it probably something else people are wondering is, will the wonderful cast of characters, are they now a thing of the past? Or will we still be hearing from Fat Alplane and Britney Spears? And
Mysterious Phantom?
The Mysterious Phantom, for sure.
I think, actually, I suspect that given that we are going to be recording together, there's a higher likelihood that those characters will come back. Because I think that those characters just have a little trouble with Zoom. I just don't think that Zoom is the proper medium for those characters. So I would not be surprised if we heard from any number of great Bookening characters like Britney Spears. Plus, she doesn't have her restraining order. Her dad's not in charge anymore, whatever that thing is.
Yeah.
So I bet
she wants.
I just bet we hear from the Mysterious Phantom and Britney Spears. I wouldn't be surprised if they're a couple. So let's see what else is going on. Speaking of not picking any bones or doing anything controversial, in November, we decided to do Jesus' Son.
We finally figure we're mature enough to do that book and admit to everybody that we like it.
Yeah, well, once every 2 years, we do an episode where we talk about how we're not going to talk about that book. So we figured we might as well just do an episode where we actually talk about that book. So because it is one of our collective favorites. Although
yeah, he's kind of one of the best.
He's one of the best, but he is R-rated though. There's no other. And then this was originally part of a Patreon scheme, but I think we just want to keep it. Do we want our December book to be the thing that we said it was going to be?
Yeah, if they get us to 2,000 before the end of the year.
They get us to 2,000 before the end of the year. Are we going to hold them to that?
Sure. Otherwise, we're going to do Ender's Game Part 2.
There's a lot. Well, listen, what I'm talking about is doing Anna Karenina in December. We have famously only ever done one episode about Anna Karenina. It was a fun episode to do, and we had a nice discussion, but the world needs more for arguably the best book we've ever read on the Bookening.
Yeah.
It's a little sad that we've only ever talked about it for about 90 minutes. So the world needs more of our thoughts on it. Questions, comments, complaints, thoughts about that list, guys? What are you most excited about? What are you least excited about? What are you intrigued by? Anything?
I'm most excited about Anna K. going back.
Same. I would jump right into it tomorrow.
Yep.
Most intrigued to see how Jesus' son is going to play out as an episode.
Yep.
See if we all still feel the same about it. I haven't read it in a while, so.
Yeah.
No, I guess I haven't really read it since the early days of the Bookening, so it's possible my tastes have changed or matured.
See if he holds up.
Yeah, we may all be ready to be done with them by now.
I am least excited about The Stranger.
Yeah.
I'm least excited about the run from June to August. Or May to August is going to be a tough stretch.
And find some ways to make that fun.
Yeah, no, we'll have fun. I mean, Sherlock Holmes will be fun. Romeo and Juliet. Every year we hit our heads against Shakespeare, and this is the year we finally crack how to talk about Shakespeare successfully on the Bookening. Moby Dick is going to be big, but it'll be good to have read it, and we'll get some interesting discussion out of it. I mean, it's arguably the great American novel. I mean, it's got to at least be in the running. So, will we have any great American novel candidates that we haven't read after we read Moby Dick? I mean, we've done Gatsby, we've done Huck, we've done Moby.
Invisible Man, To Kill a Mockingbird.
You get some of the more modern ones.
We'll have read all the Hemingway.
Infinite Jest, things like that.
Yeah,
What'd you say?
I mean, there's some of the more modern ones that people would throw in, like Infinite Jest.
Oh. But, I mean, Blood Meridian gets thrown in there.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know that there's anything else that I would say is in the running.
Hey, guys, I'll be right back. I got to go in my car for Anna.
Okay.
She's got to go get the kids.
Send his kids to school with COVID.
Sending his kids to school with COVID. All right, folks. We'll be right back. Are you as fat as Brandon? Try new Fred's Pig Troughs.
What?
Hey, everybody. We're back from our ad. I want to thank Fred's Pig Troughs for supporting the show.
By donating one pig trough to one of the members of our show.
Yep.
Won't say who.
We won't say who. It's possible. Well, I won't say what's possible or not possible. Point is, Brandon's lost a lot of weight, and we do not make jokes at his expense. He looks great. He's as svelte. If you look up the word svelte in the dictionary, I'd be surprised if you didn't see a picture of Brandon.
Probably.
Yeah. Or a definition of the word svelte. One of the two. Listen, guys, we promised the people a discussion of Howard's Ender's Game. And so, not just a discussion, actually, a trial, which I will be using the full judicial rules of the United States of America. I will be holding you guys to this. So, hear ye, all rise for the Honorable Judge Nathan. This court is in order, or in session, or something like that. We have the prosecutor today bringing his evidence against the book Ender's Game, Brandon Chasteen. Would you like to make an opening statement, Mr. Prosecutor?
Well, here we go, guys. So, I don't quite know where this trial came from. I'm pretty sure all I ever said was that I was indifferent towards this book. I don't think I ever said I hated it. Mm-hmm. I don't think I ever said that I wanted it to die in the way that I did Ready Player One.
As a man who's on record as saying that Ender's Game is stupid and anyone who likes it is a gibbering moron who needs a cup to catch their saliva.
Yeah, but hang on. I've got something. So I may have to grab my charger, but we're fine. So my case, if I was going to just say from the beginning, so we can talk about this after the trial, what my opinion is, right? It's a modified opinion of what I had. So I made the stupid mistake with Ready Player One of trotting out with Tolstoy and all those guys. It was like back before we had really fleshed out our bookening theory of the idea of the author and all that, right?
Yes.
Which we commit to now, but whatever. It was a really bad mistake. But one thing that I am going to go back to with that one is that I think that there are books that are for like seasons of life. Mm-hmm. And I think as I've talked to other people about Ender's Game, like we have a friend, a mutual acquaintance at church. He's been on the Bookening before, actually, who really likes Ender's Game. And he and I talked about it for a while. And lo and behold, he first read Ender's Game when he was 15 or something, right? I do think that this book is a season of life book. If I had read it when I was 15, I think I would have really enjoyed it. But at this point in my life, it didn't do anything for me. It's not what I wanted at that time or even really think that I should want at that time. I think that's perfectly fine. That's my honest where I'm at with Ender's Game. I think what it does is interesting. I think the world it's building is interesting. I think the sci-fi it's doing is better quality sci-fi than other stuff we've read. I actually think it's a fine book. So now that doesn't sound like much of a prosecution, right? Mm-hmm. So what I would like to do is I'm going to step aside and I am going to let Mr. Walt Hickey come in, who wrote this. I finally figured out why I hate Ender's Game, the cult sci-fi novel that everyone else apparently loves. Is that fine? Can I let him speak for me? And we can
calling Walt Hickey to the stand. All right.
Can I use some of his points?
Please.
Now, this said, I don't know what Walt Hickey's going to really say because I haven't looked into his opinions too much. So I might turn on Walt Hickey myself. But here's his opening statement. I don't like Ender's Game. And he wrote this for Insider, by the way, so a legitimate publication. Mm-hmm. This is a topic that has come up whenever someone brings up the upcoming film. So this was back when the film was coming out, right, which has legions of Ender fans salivating over seeing one of their favorite books in film. Let's get a few things straight before we go any further. I've paid way too much money for a deluxe edition of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I own a Star Trek uniform. I have a map of the Games of Thrones on the living room wall. Wait, I have a map of the Game of Thrones continent on my living room wall. Sorry, Walt, if you're listening.
Dude is disqualified from commenting.
I have vehement opinions about the proper order to watch the Star Wars films. I'm the kind of dude who likes Ender's Game, a book about a young kid who is trained via zero-gravity 3D laser tag to fight off an alien invasion, and yet when I read it as a kid, it just never clicked for me, which is odd. So I recently reread it in order to figure out precisely why, and I think I figured it out. So what I was thinking is, if we're going to put this on trial and give it a fair trial, let's find someone who seems to think he's qualified and actually see the reasons he doesn't like it. Does that sound right?
I think his qualifications are actually good. He's a nerd. He knows this stuff. He's sympathetic to this stuff. He likes this stuff.
Yeah,
more than the average person.
Which, I mean, I'm a nerd, but as I came to terms with in the Dune episodes, sci-fi doesn't do it for me, right? And I don't hate sci-fi, and a lot of my closest friends, you guys, people here at our church, really love sci-fi. And I think it's a legitimate world that it's not for me. Some people don't like detective fiction. Some people don't like sci-fi. This doesn't do it for me. So I really don't feel that qualified to attack it.
No, just 1 second, though. I always say this about Agatha Christie. Like, it's just not for me. And then you guys always sneer and...
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you say it's
no, because then you actually come out and your approach is a little different there, Nathan.
It's the definition of a Mott and Bailey argument. It's just not for me, and then your teeth are bared, and it gives you permission to just lay into all things Agatha Christie, and
which I don't want to do because I actually don't think that I don't think I could make an interesting case against him.
Right.
Yet this guy, he gives it a go. So you want to hear what his things are?
I'm thinking you should actually call his points as witnesses.
So his first point is, first off, it reads like watching someone playing a video game. So we're still kind of in his opening statement here. So today, Mr. Walt Hickey is going to prove these things to us. First off, it reads like watching someone play a video game. Second, nobody ever grows or changes during the course of Ender's Game. Now, of his points, that's the one that I'm interested to see what he has, because I can see where he's coming from there.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's a knock against the book, because I'm not quite sure that's what the book is trying to do in the first place. But hey, I'm supposed to speak for him. The characters are merely agents of plot. That sounds a lot like point 2. And 3, it's kind of dated. Oh, 4, it's kind of dated. That's it. Okay.
All right, so that's what you're going to prove today, Mr. Walt Hickey?
That's what he says he's going to prove. You want to start with his first one?
Well, let me see if Jake wants to make a opening statement for the defense.
Opening defense?
Or just an opening...
I would sooner defend Leo Tolstoy from A Roaring Lion.
I would sooner defend Leo Tolstoy from A Roaring Lion. If I had a choice between defending...
I just don't see any... This book stands on its own 2 feet, and on its merits doesn't need much defense. I think as Brandon makes his arguments against it, they'll be seen for what they are, which is completely silly and foolish. And so I think the prosecution's case will end up working against the prosecution. So I'm just going to sit back and watch Brandon self-destruct over here. I think the book stands on its own.
It's not Brandon, it's Walt Hickey.
Brandon, am I mistaken in thinking that you're the prosecutor that called Walt Hickey forth as a witness? Because that is how the judge interpreted it earlier.
Only because Brandon didn't want to do this.
Brandon, these are your arguments that you're putting forth. You brought your champion into the arena. His name is Walt Hickey, and so let's see what he has.
We've all been tempted to lean on Walt Hickey's criticism.
I guess my argument is that Brandon doesn't really have a dog in this fight. And so I was trying to find the best representative dog I could find. My dog just walked into the room when I said that. That was weird.
He knows.
And so this is it. And I think this is kind of proving to me why I don't have a dog in this fight. Because as far as sci-fi, as far as just a book goes, it's a fine book. There's really not that much to fight against or argue against. I mean, you can have some quibbles here and there with some of the morality and some of the ways his weird religion comes out in the book and stuff like that. But I mean, so can you with pretty much anything we ever read. So
I actually thought that Walt Hickey's points sounded intriguing. So
let's see what Walt Hickey has to say then, right? Ready? Yeah. So for those of you who haven't read the novel, here is the plot format for the vast majority of chapters. Reads like someone playing a video game. Colonel Graf Mazer Rackham talks to someone about how hard they plan to push Ender. Ender is confronted with both a personal challenge as well as a battle school challenge. We hang out with Peter and Valentine, who are taking over the world without using internet forums. Ender easily beats both the personal and battle school challenge because of how great he is at stuff. Ender plays a video game to decompress. Colonel Graf Mazer Rackham feels remorse over how hard he is pushing Ender, but resigns himself to the fact it is for the greater good. With the exception of the earliest and final chapters, as well as the one at the lake between Battle School and Command School, most of the chapters follow this formula to a T, unless the Valentine-Peter subplot is dropped. Still, watching a highly skilled character beat progressively difficult levels without experiencing any character growth is essentially the same as watching a skilled friend beat a video game. It's a formulaic plot without any real tension. This also leads to another thing I realized, so I think that's really the crux of his argument there, is that it's essentially like watching a skilled friend beat a video game. It's a formulaic plot without any real tension. I would say that all he's doing, well, I guess let's let Jake
is
speak.
Being a boomer. I mean, first of all, video games have some really great plots, but second of all, you know what Jane Austen reads like? Watching people going to balls. You know what War and Peace reads like? Like watching some people go to balls and go to war. Yeah, to say that it reads like watching someone playing a video game is to say This book happens to use as its mechanism a kid who's being put through video games as a part of a training for a greater purpose. So it's like, what? Okay.
Well, I think the real crux of his argument is it because it's like watching someone play a video game. There's no real tension. There are no real stakes, right? It's formulaic. It's only there.
It would be like if Elizabeth went to every ball in Pride and Prejudice and busted up and was awesome, and there was never any tension as to whether she was going to get Darcy or whether she had to grow or change.
But that's not true. That's not true. Have you watched somebody play a video game? There's all kinds of tension, and Ender has all kinds of tension. Every time he has to level up or face a new challenge, every time they try to make something more difficult for him. Like, that's how he keeps you on the hook all the way through. That's how he keeps you turning the pages is, oh man, now there's a new now there's a new thing. Now there's a new twist. Now there's something else. Now there's, oh no, he's back up against the wall here. Oh no, how's he going to make it through this?
But like Harry Potter, are we ever really worried that Ender's not going to stand up to the challenge?
So you're arguing that Harry Potter is
no,
bad?
I'm not. I'm just saying that, does that really make it not formulaic because it does that? I really don't think you're
why are we opposed?
Proving his point wrong.
Why are we opposed to certain formulas?
I don't mind.
That's fine, but you're still not proving that he's wrong.
I don't mind Ender leveling up, but I got
to go grab my charger just real fast, or my computer's going to die.
I thought you were the judge.
I'm describing my process of why I'm tempted to rule in favor of this point.
All right, we're good. What were you saying, Nathan?
So it has a plot, and it has a plot that is recognizable, and that's a problem, is what we're saying.
No,
right.
His problem is that it's so formulaic that it doesn't have any real tension, and so I think the implication of what he's saying is that tension is essential to a good plot, and this one has none of it, and so therefore the formulaicness of it lends to it not being a good plot.
Okay, so that's just a matter of I don't think there's any way to deal with that.
It's a hard thing to argue against. I mean,
you can't argue for it or against it. It's like, I say it doesn't have tension.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you're stupid.
Well, where does the tension come from in the story?
The tension in the story is all about Ender being put in these crazy situations that he has to fight his way out of and fight his way forward through.
But is there any tension if you never really wonder if Ender's going to succeed?
Do you, if you step back and, man, I wonder if Frodo's ever going to make it to Mordor. Man, I wonder if Harry's ever going to defeat Voldemort. Man,
there's the question with both of them whether or not they're going to make it alive. So there's tension from that.
The same question is true of Ender. You can't just say that because you don't want it to have tension, that it's not there. If it didn't have tension, people wouldn't consider this a page turner. It wouldn't be a number one New York Times bestseller.
Consider it a page turner. I think that what this guy is
it's tension that drives it forward. He's going to turn around and argue later that it's all about a plot, right? If this is all plot driven and not character driven, it's all about this plot. Oh yeah, but also the plot doesn't work because it doesn't have any tension. So it's also not about the plot. So he's just like throwing crap at the wall.
I think what he's
it doesn't
trying
make
to
any
get at,
sense.
I think it kind of makes sense because what he's actually trying to get at here is what C.S. Lewis takes issue with in his Experiment in Criticism.
You're really going to quote C.S. Lewis on a trial?
Yeah, sure. I don't see why not. So with Experiment in Criticism, he makes the argument that there are stories that are just there to be page turners, and then there are stories that are there to be what he would call kind of like literary, the stuff that attracts us with, I've mentioned Tolstoy and Austen, where you have real development of character. So that is what Nathan said with Jane Austen, is the difference with that. And with Ender's Game or with Harry Potter is that the point with those stories, yes, it is from ball to ball, from soiree to soiree. The point of those stories is all about the character development as opposed to the plot here being the key. And so it's just a difference of preference, a difference of what you're wanting. I don't personally think it's wrong to want stories like this. I would think it would be wrong if at this point in my life this is all I wanted. I would have an issue with that. Does that make sense?
Sure. And, I can agree that this is pretty thin on character and pretty thin on a lot of other things.
I don't know if you can really make the argument that Ender's Game has anything to offer me as a 36-year-old man over other books that I could read.
Yeah, that's not the argument. The argument is, does this book deserve to die?
And so I don't think it does. But this guy kind of seems like he does. And so that's the first thing he's saying is it's formulaic.
Yeah, but he's not making any sense. Not really. I mean, you can't really give him. You can say for the sake of argument and
I'm just doing
for the sake of a fun podcast that you can give him the point, but you can't give him the point.
Should the judge weigh in?
I'm trying to do my best to make his point for him here, and I think I'm actually giving him more than what he's saying. Do you think so, Nathan?
No, okay. I'm actually tempted to rule in favor of this point. I don't think that he's accusing it of being a video game or anything like that. Or if he is, let me perfect his point for him. What I hate this term, but he's accusing Ender of being a Mary Sue. He's saying that, or a Gary Stu, I think is what they call the male version. He's saying that Ender is always good at everything. He always overcomes the challenges. He doesn't have moments of, or he doesn't have enough moments of weaknesses and doubt. And so, therefore, there's just not a lot of suspense. And chapter after chapter, a challenge is thrown at Ender. Ender comes through with flying colors, and you're never really in suspense. After a couple of rounds of that, you have 6 or 7 more rounds where you're just like, okay, Ender's going to do it again. It's the same thing that people complained about with the character of Rey in the first of the Star Wars sequels, where she's just powerful and she's always going to figure it out and she's always going to be awesome.
But that's just not actually, I mean, you can say that, you can assert it, but if you actually go back and look at the book, the amount of time that Ender spends alone on his bed trying to figure out how to deal with this next thing, the amount of time he spends trying to figure out how to deal with this curveball or that curveball, the amount of time he spends up against the wall, the amount of time he spends naked and sweating and afraid for his life, and the amount of time we cut to the colonels or whoever who are like, you're going to kill this kid, like, he's not going to be able to make it through this. I don't think that's what, I think if that were true, then it wouldn't be as compelling to as many people as it is. And the fact is, the book does a pretty good job of keeping most people on the edge of their seat, ready to see what happens next. What's the next curveball? What's the next challenge? Is he going to be able, how's he going to get through that? Is he going to be able to make it? Like,
well, yeah. And I think that this really is where it comes down to personal preference when reading this book, because I didn't personally feel that I felt that he wanted me to feel the tension, but that he wasn't being quite successful in convincing me that there was ever really any chance that Ender wasn't going to win. In the sense that I don't really feel there was any chance that, for example, the Cuisinart? Sazerac
Paul
was
Atreides.
ever not really going to win. And I think in sci-fi, that's kind of inevitable. Like even with The Lord of the Rings, you don't really ever doubt that Frodo's going to win, right?
But you sort of, as a reader, you're willing to suspend.
But yes, that's the difference, right? Is whether or not the authors successfully get you to suspend your disbelief.
And I think for something like Dune, you get the moment where the Harkonnens pulled their trick. Yep. Everything, Paul and Lady Jessica are in the desert. Everything looks down. Everything's bad. He's beaten. He's going to have to rise back up. He's going to have to figure it out. He's really on his heels. And that's something that Orson Scott Card does not give you as much of.
Which is where I think maybe the idea for this debate originally came from, is when I said that this book made me appreciate Dune all that much more. That wasn't necessarily a knock on this book. It was more just praising Herbert and realizing that Herbert really was just, it's the difference between, I don't know, it's the difference between any various authors we've read versus Austen or Tolstoy, you know? Austen and Tolstoy can take a soiree and get a whole world out of it, while other people can't quite do that. And it's
not their aim.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't mean that their books aren't worthwhile or anything. It just means that it's a different aim. It's a different skill level too. And that's really what I meant there, is that I think this kind of helps me flesh that out some more. And this book is not quite, Herbert hit on something that's really, I would go back and read Dune again before I would read this. And it's just because I think that Herbert's doing something more interesting with his storytelling.
Well, I don't know whether I think this is in support of Jake's point, but maybe it isn't. There is also the suspense of how, and that is a type of suspense. Even like I was never on the ropes as far as or on the ropes isn't the phrase I want there, but I was never really seriously thinking that Ender wasn't going to pull it off on a chapter by chapter basis. And I think he was a little overpowered and a little too cool. And that is a problem with the book. But it's also just fun to try and keep up with an Ender and figure out how he's going to meet each challenge.
Yes.
And there's a suspense that comes out of, okay, I know he's going to do it, but what's it going to look like? And
that's actually really helpful because I think that helps clarify, I think, what C.S. Lewis was pointing to is the difference. Stories, though, that only make you wonder how are not the same as stories that make you wonder, like, why or
whether,
who's behind it. Does that make sense? Stories that lean heavily on the how, that kind of is like, when you're playing a video game, even though the Zelda franchise, I actually think that this guy wasn't thinking about because there are some video games that actually do make you interested in the story.
Yeah, there's some really great stories out there in video games.
So I'm pretty sympathetic to what you're saying.
Those criticisms are true of every Marvel movie. They're true of every...
Yeah.
It's just like, they're true of Star Trek, for goodness sake. And
yeah.
What were the other things that he thought he was doing to drop nerd cred? Like, character growth and a suspenseful plot, and you're pointing to Star Trek?
Yeah.
Come on, man.
But Captain Kirk has to grow as a character.
Yeah, I mean, Star Trek, to be fair, has some great characters like Worf and Data.
Well, Iron Man has to grow as a character. I mean, there are basic character growth things that Orson Scott Card is not interested. He wants Ender to be more of just a fact, like Ender is this. I mean, I know he grows at the very end, but our journey with Ender is basically Ender's pretty cool. And
well, part of the tragedy of the story is that Ender's a kid. He's not allowed to be a kid, and he's not allowed to grow in the ways that normal kids grow. And so they're keeping him stunted in very particular ways in this sort of sci-fi dystopian story. And that's part of the tension that you feel as a reader. And you feel it most through his handlers who feel that tension, feel what they're doing is evil, but in the particular, but for the greater good. So there is a level of, he's an avatar of saving civilization and they're using him and manipulating him. But part of the question is, will he be able to come out of this and claim some kind of actual humanity? What sets him apart from his brother or his sister exactly? Is he able to be human while still bearing the mantle of the sort of chosen one that has been manufactured and manipulated and put through the system like a cog in the machine? Can he come out and hold on to some kind of humanity? Those are all things that in a sci-fi conceit, you can only have generally space to ask one or two sort of bigger questions like that. And that's it. That's all you ask.
And to be fair to Card, this is only first of a trilogy or something like that, right?
This is a massive...
So when you have a direction, you're taking a character in a book like this, you can't just judge it on the first. The first book is supposed to be the first step in character
That's absolutely true.
Right?
Yep.
I'm putting back on my wig. I'm scurrying back behind the judge's desk here.
You ready to hear the next point?
Yes.
Nobody ever grows or changes during the course of Ender's Game. Sure, people get new jobs or go to different schools or grow in prestige, but at no point over the course of the novel do we see a demonstrable growth or change in any of the characters, despite the fact that Ender ages from 6 to roughly 11. I'm willing to grant Card the exceedingly young hero just because every science fiction novel geared toward young adults, and many that aren't, runs into this problem, but to see no demonstrable character growth just sort of removes the stakes from it. Card in many ways suffers from the same problem that Asimov faced in some of his great novels, the fact that he had a rocking plot concept, but his characters were two-dimensional cardboard cutouts, just going through the motions to make that awesome plot happen.
There's some merit to that, but part of the tension is not how does Ender need to change and grow. The question is, can Ender consistently be put through the paces needed for him to level up in skill without becoming corrupted, without being destroyed in the process? So it's, in a weird sense, there's an inversion on that sort of classic sense of oh, the hero has to grow, has to have some journey of self-discovery, has to this, has to that. Well, the main thing that's necessary for Ender is that he level up in his ability to strategically destroy the enemy without losing his humanity, his compassion, in developing his leadership ability. So it is more abstract in that sense, but it's just not trying to be all that deep.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it comes down to whether or not you see that as a problem, or if you see that as just part of the...
It's part of the conceit.
A feature that makes it work as it works. And I think that kind of works in with his next point. Basically, he says that the characters are merely agents of plot. Usually you want to describe... Let's see. An outstanding way to gauge the strength of a work's character is to see if you can describe the characters without saying anything about their age, appearance, or occupation. I don't know. Why is that? An outstanding way to gauge the strength of a work's characters is to see if you can describe the characters. Okay, I guess I get it. The best I could do with the Ender's Game main cast is genius for Ender, smart and compassionate for Valentine, smart and ambitious for Peter, and guilty for Graf. Maybe people with a deeper relationship with the novels can do better, but I'm really running dry. Even Ender is woefully flat. Contrast this with something else. He mentions Harry Potter as a fundamentally sympathetic character. It grows and changes substantially over the course of a single novel. You can describe any member of the cast and with a multitude of adjectives that don't pertain to appearance, age, or occupation. Ender at the end and Harry at the beginning are roughly the same age, but Rowling is able to make you feel for Harry in a way that Card is only able to make you observe Ender.
Who is it?
I guess he's off for a minute.
Yeah.
I mean, he really doesn't add any... I don't know why these are...
I think that's a total crap argument. To bring in Harry is to bring in somebody who has the same issue. Actually, I could say the same thing about Harry that I just said about Ender, which is... And you could make it a criticism, and it ought to be more of a criticism of Harry than of Ender, because when you're talking about Harry, you are talking about a 7-novel arc, and we're talking about this as a standalone piece, but Harry is always just the good-hearted kid who lived under the stairs, and even the places where he should grow, Rowling undermines it, right?
It's also kind of ridiculous to say that you can't find other adjectives to describe Ender. There's fearful, there's uncertain, there's...
insecure.
There's all these things that... I mean, he gives some other emotions. I think that this guy is not completely understanding what's meant by a well-rounded character, and that's because when you get to some of these literary categories, which is why debates like these become so difficult when you're defending great literature versus have you ever had a debate with someone and you're trying to convince them why something is so good, and they're like, well, I don't see what the difference is between that and then this other thing, which is obviously just like
trash,
not as good. Yeah, trash. And then you're trying to defend it, and you're like, well, it kind of just has this sort of je ne sais quoi. You either know it or you don't.
Yeah, at a certain point, you don't see it. Maybe it's because you don't have eyes to see it. Maybe it's
I think
maybe it's because you're not worthy.
C.S. Lewis, in his Experiment in Criticism, that's kind of the argument he ends up falling on, and it seems really snobbish that he basically says there are two types of people: those who get it and those who don't.
Yeah,
and to reduce the argument isn't really helpful here. To say that if you can only describe a character with a couple adjectives, therefore they're flat. Because there are lots of flat characters I can think of that...
And it's not always a bad thing. I mean, for goodness sake, we've had the same exact discussion with Tolkien, right? Like, how many characters in Lord of the Rings give you more than one dimension? Have more than one just main character attribute that you can use to describe them? There really aren't a lot. Like, the depth that we apply to them is the depth that we... project onto them as we see ourselves or our friends or people we love. And part of the reason we can do that is precisely because of their one-dimensionality, because of how much they serve as types, right? Yeah. It's the discussion that we have about Luke Skywalker in A New Hope. It's like, well, he's a really dull, boring, flat character, which makes him a great avatar for you as you place yourself in his hero's journey story, which we all know Luke's going to make it to the end, and we all know Luke's going to win, and Luke's going to level up along the way, and there's not going to be a whole lot of... So it's really to come... He just doesn't like the execution of a genre piece that he thinks he likes the genre of. And that's not the same as having a valid criticism about the piece itself.
Yeah, and this is why I get like, I've been thinking quite a bit about this lately. So, and why I've wanted to land where I've landed with Ender's Game and be careful about it, because C.S. Lewis is kind of making a value statement about those who get it and those who don't, without considering the fact that God has made various types of people in the world, and that those who get it and those who don't, that there's not necessarily an inferiority built into that. Both of them can land in a horribly wicked place where, those who don't get it can become boorish and priggish and not think that there's anything beautiful in life and just hate those who do, right?
Yeah.
And those who, you can end up in the others, become an intellectual snob, right? And I think it's just where I'm at in life right now. I've met a lot of people who are good guys who would never want to read, or that I would never say that their life would be improved by reading War and Peace. And that kind of maybe sounds extreme, Does it make sense though?
That makes sense. And there's some young men who you look at and you would say, your chances of finding a wife would be improved by reading Pride and Prejudice. And there are other young men that you look at and say your chances of getting married would be improved by going to the gym 3 times a week.
Exactly.
Right.
So there are different
get out of your house, get out of your head, and go get jacked. Yeah. That'll help.
And it's not the same.
And you'll learn some life lessons too in the process about self-discipline and growth and all kinds of things.
It depends on the person. So like if there was a guy our age, for example, that said all they ever read and they spent all their time reading it was Ender's Game, I think we would all have a big concern.
Yeah.
But if we come across a guy our age that says, I like Ender's Game, and we have a discussion as to why, and we find out that it's for some of the reasons we're talking about here, we're not going to be concerned. And we're also not going to be concerned if that guy then turns around and says, you know what, I tried to read War and Peace and it just really wasn't for me, if they're also a good father and a good husband and are working in the church and have other things that seem valuable in their life. Yep. The fact that they don't want to go and read Tolstoy doesn't make them any inferior of ours.
It's a huge investment.
Yeah. And I have no clue where this is coming from. But anyways, I just thought that was something I wanted to say.
Well, I just think it's important that we understand. I mean, it's easy to get wrapped up in any number of little things. We've all been, we do this show because books have made a huge impact on our lives and our personal development. That's as much a function of the books we've read as it is a function of our personalities, our histories, our backgrounds, and any number of things. There are people we would love to share those experiences with that just don't need them.
Yep.
Or just don't have access to them given their personality or their gifts in the same way. And there are ways, you see this with certain kids. I think about this with some of my kids, and it's like, I don't know that I'm going to be able to share my love of Tolstoy with some of my kids. If they're ever going to get there, how do I get them there? Well, am I okay with that? It's sort of like saying, I'm not going to be able to share my love of baseball with some of my kids because they just don't have the athletic acumen. They can love it. We can, have a piece of it, but we can't have the whole thing. And that's okay. That's not going to make them less of a man.
Yeah.
Necessarily. It's just going to be, okay, how do we help you grow into a mature, well-rounded man, as well-rounded as you're capable of being with the machinery, with the tools that God's given you.
Yeah, the only little flourish I would add to this conversation is it's very easy to denigrate the things that you don't have an aptitude for.
Yes.
And I do not like that. Just because I'm not good at baseball doesn't mean baseball is not a worthwhile pursuit. And it doesn't mean that there's not something there for the people who love baseball. And I think everybody or a lot of people understand that with something as concrete as baseball. But with something like War and Peace, oftentimes the people who just don't get it assume that there's nothing there to get.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty silly, reductive place to be. So your understanding is inferior in a sense if you just don't like Pride and Prejudice, if you just don't get War and Peace. Now, that might be fine. You may have other things that are developed and good, and my understanding of math is inferior because I just don't get it. My head doesn't work that way. but let's not understand like there's not some kind of objective value there that it would be nice if everybody could get.
Yeah, actually. So I have a good friend who fits that exactly. He's not what you're saying. In other words, he doesn't want to read War and Peace or Pride and Prejudice, but he doesn't think it's just because it's not what he wants to carve out time for. But he also doesn't then, he trusts and loves me and us enough that he then realizes that there must be something there for us, right? Yep. He doesn't see any reason to warn us against it. And he's the kind of guy that would. Anyways, so he's made that work for him, right?
And that's a great place to be. And may he never read War and Peace. The person who says, I read War and Peace and it was stupid, that person is just being silly.
They're just being, So, and then
I don't get baseball, and the problem is with me, not baseball.
Yeah, I mean, and so, so my sons did Smithfield Diamonds for a couple of years, and I didn't grow up doing a lot of sports. Have nothing against sports, but we got there and I realized that there was something that the dads who coached and the parents who were there and the kids, they were getting real character development, real relationship and bonding, and actually poetic moments. The same sort of things that I draw from reading. They were getting, it's not the exact same, but they were still getting these experiences from this. And so was I. I mean, there's some real things there that you don't want to miss out on. So,
yeah. And some people are by culture, by class, by taste, by just breeding, by like just family, just like we have a baseball family, we have a literature family, whatever. You're going to be more inclined in certain directions and are going to know how to make use of the tools that are there for the same exact ends better. Yeah.
What got me thinking about this is I read an article recently. Did I talk to you guys about this, about the great books?
I don't think so.
And it was actually weirdly enough in the New Yorker. And this guy came out because there were these 2 books that were written about how the great books shouldn't be lost from college because they help kids figure out their morality and their ethics. And like, if we don't have the great books courses anymore, where are kids going to learn how to be moral and ethical? And he said, I'm a literature teacher at Harvard. And he said, and I think it's extraordinarily single-minded of us to think that the only place, I think, because I said I couldn't remember what the word humanities. Remember this?
Yeah, I remember now.
I think it's extraordinarily single-minded of us to think that only the humanities provide this sort of insight. The humanities is a source of it, but it's not the only place where it exists. And I think he's got a point. I think that this whole idea that somehow reading Homer is going to make you a more moral person.
And that's the only way to do it.
And like, if you're not reading Homer, you have some key missing to your life. I think that's ridiculous. Yep. Now, I think that the student who has a teacher who wants him to read Homer and won't do it has a problem that needs to be addressed. That's a different discussion, right?
Yeah, and that's not to say there's not great value in shaping character through reading and discussing Homer.
And that also
or anything else. It's just like, guys, there's more to life than one of these small avenues here, and what we want to be is complete people. Well-rounded people.
And it makes you more sympathetic to the wide array of books that people have that really meant a lot to them. When you really begin to drill down, you find out that it's usually because they had a great teacher who really made it mean something to them, right? And so there's a whole world of things behind stuff like that. It's not just as easy as you go to Homer because Homer makes you the complete man. That's silly. There's only one book out there that makes you a complete man that you would not be well without, and that's the Bible.
Right.
So,
I mean, as much as anything, I have a natural affinity for books and literature, but it's not one that I ever developed prior to this show. This show is as much for me a place of, hey, Brennan and Nathan are guys I love and respect, and they're ahead of me in this aspect of my life. I'm going to give myself to it and figure it out. And it'll make me a better person in the long run. Jump all in. So,
love you guys too. And Henry's saying hi.
Hey, Henry.
Hi, Henry.
He says hi. He's also really sad. I didn't get him a cake pop, but I only got his sister Lucy a cake pop.
They're $3 a piece, Henry.
Yeah.
Yeah, Henry. They're $3 a piece. You're not worth it.
Tell him if he reads Homer, he might be worth a cake pop.
And that is, I mean, I just see the oppressiveness of that way of looking at literature. Like there are these works that make it like if you get this education, the great books education, suddenly you've made it and you're somebody that has more value than other people. I begin to realize, yeah, you know what? I can see sort of the Marxists, multiculturalist people getting mad at this and thinking, well, what if I grew up in a place where I don't have access to Homer and all this other sort of stuff? Does that make me inferior to you, white boy? You know, it begins to make sense why that makes so many people so angry. Because it's just completely valuing, it produces envy and jealousy for one, because God doesn't put everybody in a place where they can afford the sort of education that would give them that.
Not yet. But not everybody has the privilege of growing up learning Latin.
Yeah.
Or Greek.
Anyways. Well, I am ruling in favor of Ender's Game. I'm inspired.
We didn't even get to the outdated one yet.
Everyone should read this book. Your life is incomplete.
That's kind of a silly one here. Can I just mention that real fast?
Yeah,
what's that?
It's kind of dated.
It's got to be the silliest one.
Because there were things in this book that didn't seem so dated. I mean, and that's one of the things that didn't hit me really about.
He predicted the internet, for crying out loud.
That's one of the things that was most striking to me was, I mean, this is the cover of the book that we had, right? So it looks pretty current, and I just straight up had no idea how old this book was for most of the book. It's like anytime you read sci-fi like this, you're going to find things that are dated. That can never be a criticism of sci-fi. It's trying to predict the future. It's trying to be, so it's going to be dated in its own particular ways. You want dated, go read Bradbury, but then to read this book and then discover that it was written in the 70s, it's like, holy cow. Like, the amount of understanding of the internet and VR and stuff like this that he figured out or that he had plotted was pretty incredible.
What does this guy marshal as his evidence? Is it like the sex politics that he doesn't like?
Know. Let's see. A key element of the science fiction, because otherwise I get his points, and my argument against him would be that, well, that's just not the kind of sci-fi you go for, and really you're kind of arguing against the genre you're claiming you're loving here. But with Star Trek, but so let's see. A large part, so this kind of gives away what he thinks sci-fi is. A key element of the science fiction is making predictions that kind of hold up, which then makes sense why he likes some of the stuff he mentioned earlier. While it's okay to screw up occasionally, a lot of the key elements of Ender's Games are predictions that would just flop. For those who want more history of sci-fi, go back and listen to our context, right? Where we talk about, there are actually two different types of sci-fi. There's the sci-fi that's more conceptual, and then there's the sci-fi that is more technical. So I think he likes the technical sci-fi.
Well, he's making a completely arbitrary decision that he can, or a definition that he can lump anything he likes and say, well, it was kind of predicted. And anything he doesn't like, he can say, it mostly didn't. It's so arbitrary.
So he's saying the first edition, the Soviet Union is the enemy. And then after that, he replaced it with the Warsaw Pact, something that has not exactly held up. He says his interpretation of the internet is pretty stuck in the news group system of the era that when he wrote it. Card never foresaw the eventual degradation of the human race's attention span. But worth noting is that a lot of the elements, so this is pretty funny stuff.
Okay,
so let's see. A lot of the stuff that makes it notable he had taken it from other people like Starship Troopers or the Forever War. And here you go, drum roll. Also, it was only on this reread that I realized, and here's my interpretation of the subtext here, drum roll, and after the Me Too movement, and after feminism, and being a modern man who is terrified that women might be reading this article, you realize that this book is pretty sexist. This part jumped out, so you got it. You nailed it, Nathan.
Why is it sexist? Just because Valentina is sweet and helpful to Ender, I guess?
He's going to give some evidence. This part jumped out at me from the chapter where Graf is explaining Battle School. Essentially, Graf explains that Battle School is comprised of the following activities. Normal school, strategy and tactics, zero gravity laser tag. You guys hear how sexist that is?
That is, oh man, I'm angry.
No.
Let's march.
I think women can partake in all of those things.
Jake, that's why this guy has just beat you, man, because you don't see the sexism there.
Then he just beat himself by being sexist and assuming girls can't partake of zero gravity laser tag.
Sorry. I guess I'm...
The tactics.
When Ender asks
he's
if the program is...
misgendering these activities.
He's
assigning them masculine values and traits, and he should not be.
Come on, guys. So when Ender asks if the program is all boys, Graf says, a few girls. They often don't pass the tests. Too many centuries of evolution are working against them. None of them will be like Valentine anyway. Actually, so I recently talked to a Marine, and he pretty much said the same thing, that there are a few girl Marines because they can't pass how difficult the tests are. But anyways.
Well, I recently talked to a biologist, and he said biology.
I'm just saying that it seems to actually play out this way, that, when you have... Well, you guys heard
I just read the Army entry-level tests, and they actually have separate standards for women.
Yeah. Have you guys heard about the new Jeopardy run?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Isn't that hilarious?
The greatest female athletes are men.
And the greatest female Jeopardy contestants are also men.
That's pretty funny. I love the
amazingly huge snowflakes falling right now, Nathan. You get a chance, go outside, or don't go outside, but look. These guys are like golf ball size snowflakes.
You sure it's not like the world's burning down around you?
Yeah, it could be ash from the Tonga volcano. It's possible.
Speaking of amazingly huge snowflakes, does this guy have any other points that are worth recapping?
So he says this is just dated sexual. He says this is Barbie levels of sexist. It's pretty well known by this point that Orson Scott Card. So now he's going to do some, what do you call it? Ad hominem attacks.
Okay, well, I want to see the amazingly large snowflakes. I'm declaring this guy guilty. What's this guy's name?
Walter Wangerin. No.
Walter Wangerin. I'm sentencing him to death by
this is Walter
being eaten by a giant worm.
Walt Hickey.
All right. Walt Hickey, I sentence you to be thrown into a pit where a giant worm that represents all evil will devour you, along with Mundo Cunny Dog. And I find Ender's Game a fine novel. I do think you guys were too hard on the first point that the guy made. I think the novel would benefit from things just being a little bit more challenging for Ender. I admit that that's a matter of taste.
Nathan.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I agreed with you there.
I think you let Jake have it too easily.
I was just fighting for the book, guys. I'm a good defense attorney.
I think you're just remembering what you want to remember, Nathan.
I also think that I think the average person probably does enjoy a book with warmer characters than this novel.
I think that's true. That's part of the dystopia of it all, in my opinion. But yeah.
Yeah, it's not really a bug, it's a feature, but it's a feature that makes this book a lot less lovable than a Harry Potter, to take an obvious.
Ender is not lovable the way that Harry is.
And his brother and sister are both borderline sociopaths, and everybody's kind of a sociopath, and it's just not as fun to read about a bunch of sociopaths. But yeah, it's a fine sci-fi book, and you want to put this one in the time capsule, Brandon, since it's your new favorite novel?
Yeah, sure. I'm trying to find a Walter Wangerin poem about snow, but I can't.
There's no Walter Wangerin poem. Should we end this? I think this episode's been such a weird grab bag. We should end with a Walter Wangerin poem.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for one right now.
That's what I was hoping for.
I've found the same poems I read that one time. Da, 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 da. Oop, here's Christianity Today, I think, published some, so they must be good.
I can see those on the camera here. Those are big snowflakes.
Wait a second, you can see them through the camera?
Yeah, he's turned his...
Oh, wow, you can see them on the camera. That's amazing. All right, I really want to go see those snowflakes, so let me just find a... Oh, nope, that's a story. Come on, poems. I need a Walter Wangerin poem.
Oh, doesn't mean that she started. You guys excited about those Buccaneers?
It's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about it, and I think anyone that knows anything about it is less of a man than me, because I know a lot about literature.
Can he read about it in a Hemingway novel? If not, then forget it.
Exactly.
I only get my news from Hemingway.
Is true. All right, guys. I think I'm not finding
I refuse to get my news that is not well written, so I don't read any news.
I think that's fair. I can't find a Walter Wangerin poem that
Is worth
we haven't already done. So I'm just going to go to poetry.com and maybe I can
pull Dubliners from the shelf real quick.
Snow falling faintly and faintly falling over all the living and the dead. Like the descent of their last end. I forgot that line.
You know, it's stupid, but I almost want to put Dubliners in the stupid time capsule just for that story. Oh man, what a waste of a time. I mean, that story's better than 99% of anything that we've read. And that's not.
He was a genius who did not use his gift wisely.
No, he did not. All right. I'm going to read a poem by Dorothea Lasky. This is the featured poem at the Poetry Foundation for today. You guys ready for this?
Yep.
I guess.
It's called If You Can't Trust the Monitors. If you can't trust the monitors, then why do they have the monitors? If you can't trust the cars, then why have the cars? If you can't trust that I think you're hot, then why do you look so good, turning me on the way that you do? If you can't trust the people, then why have the people? If you can't trust the cards, then why have the cards? If you can't trust this room, then why have the room? Why not just an open space where you can be naked and fascinating? If you can't trust the milk in the bottles, then why have the bottles? If you can't trust the wine, the song, then why have the country? If you can't trust the kangaroo, then why go jumping? If you can't trust the sky, then why have the sky at all? If you can't trust the stars, then why look out? Why just not sit in your room? It's dark and safe anyway. If you can't trust what's dark and safe anyway, then why even bother? Then why even be here at all? I don't know. I just went and walked, but desire is hopeless. If you can't trust the windowsill, then why put the flowers there? Why not leave it bare? Oh, I did. And then what? After a while, anyway, the old sun, it burned it green, the windowsill, and when all I returned to the room, all I saw was green, grass green, like grass, but greener than a halting hue of it, and I forgot the flowers, and I forgot you. If you can't trust the daybreak, then why have the daybreak? Why not sit? Let the night come. It won't stop itself. The hormones and all.
What you've just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I've ever heard.
But hey,
at no point in your rambling, incoherent poem were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Or
everyone on this podcast is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points. So, and I just quoted Billy Madison, which is a far superior piece of literature than that piece of tripe.
And Jake wins the argument right there. That is when Jake brings it home, and she was the promoted poem today.
Yeah.
That wasn't poetry. Poem? That was ridiculous. Oh my goodness, no.
I will say it reads better. Yeah.
I have been rejected by the Poetry Foundation.
Good for you.
Good.
I know. I've only tried once and they rejected me. And if this is what they accept, then I don't know if I would actually feel all that good about being accepted. I mean, let's be honest. I would feel.
You'd feel pretty good about being accepted, yeah.
But still,
I think we should put your bio should read was up for entry into the Poetry Foundation or something like that.
Yeah, this is. Oh man.
Did you guys see this guy who his bio says some conservative writer? His bio says was nominated for the Pulitzer Prize twice, but it turns out you can submit yourself to the Pulitzer Prize. So all that really means is that he was one of thousands of people who sent their name in.
Yeah, so I'm just going to start applying to all these. Like, I was considered for publication in the New Yorker.
Right, exactly. Anyway,
I don't know what they're going to say. But hey,
you've missed the snow unless it's still at your house.
All right. Well,
not here.
It's not here anymore.
Well, guys, I feel
not
good
like
about
that. There's precipitation, but not those massive snowflakes are gone.
I feel good about the new year. I think the Bookening is alive and kicking, and it's fun.
Hey, we just gave
I think
people...
we're better than anything Dorothea Lasky puts out. So.
Hey, there's our T-shirt. The Bookening, better than Dorothea Lasky, the featured poet of the. I should have gone with. There's one by Robert Pinsky. I probably should have done that.
He's not even all that great. 2 thumbs down for that stinker.
He would have been better than what's her face. All right. 2 thumbs down for that stinker. 3 thumbs up for the stinker that is the Bookening. And that's a thumb from each of us. I guess 6 thumbs. I don't know.
5 stars.
Guys.
You really can't do math.
We did have a new review.
Uh-oh. 2 stars, really? Is that what we got?
What does it say?
Oh, I had it pulled up earlier, but it's not there anymore. Let me...
Inconsistent. Last year. 2 stars.
All right. Here we go.
Tell us things we don't want to hear.
You guys are so funny.
I've listened... Nope. Keep trying to like it. 2 stars. From Coley Blackall. I've listened to this podcast off and on for almost 4 years, and it continues to disappoint me. The banter is really uninteresting. I fast forward most of it trying to find good content to listen to. I keep coming back to see if it's improved.
Wow.
No, I'm looking at it in the podcast app on my computer. I should be looking at it.
I got it here. I keep coming back to see if it's improved because I feel like I like the hostess people most of the time, and when they wholeheartedly love a book like Ishiguro, the podcasts are so great, but most of the time they seem to criticize books, and it's just frustrating to listen to. They rarely second-guess their criticisms, try to check each other's criticisms, and often I feel like they misjudge and just really don't understand the book, or have a bizarre standard by which all books should fall into some predictable redemptive arch or something.
That's definitely what we think.
Not sure. Just here to say I've really, really given you guys lots of second chances, and every time I see you've done an episode on a book I like, I come to listen and I'm disappointed because it felt like a big waste of time. I hope you improve.
I'm sorry. I don't want you to waste your time. And we definitely do talk a lot about that redemptive arch. So
yeah,
we'll try to do less of that in 2022.
Is that the St. Louis arch? What is the most redemptive arch?
I think it might be the Arch de Triomphe, but each his own.
I think it's the McDonald's arch. The golden arch.
I had to redeem myself from that arch this last couple of years. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now, Brandon has redeemed himself. He's a very svelte and thin guy, and we do not appreciate any fat jokes, any pig jokes, any Jabba the Hutt jokes, any whale jokes about Brandon.
I'm sure there will not be any whale jokes as we read Moby Dick.
No, in 2022, we are not making any. This is not a fat shaming podcast. We are a fat positive podcast. We love Brandon. We're a fat positive podcast.
Fat positive. And yeah, I guess I would say if we criticize a lot of books, then maybe those authors should have tried harder.
Yep. Better luck next time, Dostoevsky.
Yeah.
Nice try, C.S. Lewis.
Man. Our criticisms, they're not even really all that critical. We just love these books so much that we want to point out what's bad about them.
Maybe it's because I listened to...
It's what makes an interesting podcast is if all we did was celebrate these books. Like
why do we have to pretend?
Literature podcast.
Why do we have to pretend like these authors weren't men with failures? Then we can point out those failures.
I think as a conservative, I'm just used to listening to podcasts that disagree with me. 90% of podcasts that I listen to are by liberals who hate my guts, and I have to sift through it, and I have to see what's good about the point that they're making. So I'm like, of course you want a podcast where they vehemently, fundamentally disagree with you. That's half the fun. But lots of people
just want to be validated.
Want to be validated or want an echo chamber. Oh, well. Better luck next time to us with our next review.
Well, this year we promise to bring you more of the redemptive arch. Should we have Arch de Triomphe section just in honor of this guy?
Sure.
What is the most redemptive arch in the story?
The most redemptive arch in the story.
We got to lean into this. I can't imagine. I can imagine you guys have mentioned redemptive arches in Sound of Sanity when you're making fun of that Joker who talks about redemptive arches, probably way too much. Brent McCracken.
I am now looking at pictures of natural arches.
The Utah arch, right?
Oh my goodness, these things are gorgeous. We should go visit some of the largest natural arches in the world. There's the Ferry Bridge in China.
Guess what?
It's amazing.
Here's what we'll do.
The Jiangsu Immortal Bridge.
Can I get you guys... Cool. Well, I don't know if I can get you guys to promise me this.
Yeah, landscape arch in Devil's Garden, Utah. That's amazing.
If people get us to $3,000 before the end of this year, will you guys get muddy and crawl with me through a 1,200 long foot crawlway to go record an episode on an arch inside a cave. That's a pretty awesome arch.
No.
Okay.
I like the $3,000 part of that.
Thought it was worth a
But-
try. $5,000.
1,200 foot crawlway, man. I'm sorry.
I would freak out. I mean,
I am too claustrophobic.
That's why there was my shoulder. There was a scratch on my shoulder from where I had to pull myself through this crawl, and it was so tight. It scratched me.
Nope.
Like left a mark.
I don't even like to hear about that. In fact,
This
let's
is
be
the one I was
done.
telling you guys about. It starts to pull on the mud, pulls on your shirt,
Nope.
and you have to like breathe in and pull your shirt up, and then pull yourself.
Nope.
All right, I'll tell you what I want
It's
to
the
pull
bendy
on.
parts that get me because I'm so long. The places where you have to bend awkwardly.
It's straight. There's no bends. Jake's in, Nathan. What do you say, buddy?
No.
Jake's in.
No. I would still be terrified that I would have a panic attack and that I'd get stuck and kill myself and half of whoever was either ahead of me or behind me.
Yeah, that would.
Yeah, no, it sounds terrible.
So
What if the cave collapses?
Never mind. I did get you guys to agree, but I think that died at Christmas to rappel into a cave.
I think that died at Christmas.
I think that's what the agreement was good till. So
Rappelling into a cave through one of those big open holes at the top is not nearly as scary as going through these like.
How about if they
crawlway
get us
type.
to $2,000? We have to pose like these guys in that exact same outfit.
Will
Absolutely.
do.
Absolutely.
100%.
Now, what is that? Tell people what that is so they can look up the picture.
It's a mammoth. My daughter found this at Half Price Books and for some reason thought she wanted to buy it. And I think it was because these people reminded her of her Papa Daddy.
Yeah, so, obviously they all look like you.
They're large men in leather vests.
Yeah,
and
we will
only
be
leather
large
vests
men
with
in
leather
leather
pants.
vests for $3,000. We will
So if you want to
replicate
see us
that picture.
pose in leather vests and leather pants and nothing else
Mhm.
for $3,000,
And one of us has to shave our head into a mohawk.
you get to decide. If you get us to $3,000, you can decide which one of us that is.
We did make Jake wear a Elvis costume. What was the deal with that?
I forgot what that was.
What was that?
Oh, he was Elvis, the Elvish Elvis.
Yes, he had to read
some
Elvish
things in Elvish, yeah.
dressed as Elvis. That was amazing, and Jake was really happy to do that, and it was a good time was had by all. Listen, speaking of all,
I'm a notoriously good sport about things like that, so
yeah, Jake is, I think notorious is the word for how good of a sport you are. Listen, guys, speaking of good sports, I'm going to say most of our patrons are good sports. So, boy, I don't know.
Should we name what sport we think they'd be best at?
Yep. I think we should do that. Robert and Rhonda the Lovebirds,
Football.
the Artful Anthony Dodger.
dodgeball.
Yeah, obviously. Little Anthony Cigar Store.
Cricket.
Yeah, with a Little Anthony Cigar Store, it would be good at cricket. The Immortal Chelsea.
No.
E.
He's cigars. I'm an idiot. Bullfighting.
Oh, yeah, obviously. Little Immortal Chelsea E.
Breakdancing.
Little Jimmy Beam, Little Vanny Oakley.
Rifle shooting. Long range shooting, whatever they would call it.
Lily of the Valley.
Free running.
Andrew and Esther the Lovebirds.
They're lovebirds? What do they call it? Base jumping.
Base jumping. Cool. Keith Master.
Parkour.
David's Mighty Men Trucking.
Baseball.
Keith Master.
Parkour.
David's Mighty Men Trucking.
Baseball.
John and Jill and Little Baby Max.
Gymnastics.
Jay and Katie, who are cold and love cheese, and also C.S. Lewis, including Till We Have Faces.
They're cold, so they love hockey.
Your logic is sound as ever, sir. Fairy Princess of Wonder and Happiness, Mother Beth.
Paragliding.
Council Prime Adam.
You say parrot gliding?
Paragliding.
That's what he said. Parrot gliding. The great sport of parrot gliding.
You say
You actually have two parrots attached to your feet, and you just glide along. It's amazing. Council Prime Adam.
Consul Prime Adam. He likes air hockey.
What about Nathan, not me?
Archery.
Nice. Ryan the Red Avenger. Judith of the Ladies of Justice.
Taekwondo.
DJ Sammy G.
Badminton.
Benny and Danny Tiberius.
Oh, that's Tiberius. That's Rome. What do they play in Rome? Lacrosse.
They play the great Roman sport of lacrosse. No, they play Colosseum stuff.
Oh, gladiatorial events. Yeah.
Yeah, gladiator stuff.
There we go.
Benny and Danny Tiberius.
Gladiator
Eric and Catherine from Beyond Window Breaks.
Tennis.
Professor and Lady X.
Oh, look, I'm getting popcorn delivered to me. Professor and Lady X, they love themselves. So
No
love
narcissists.
biathlon.
Professor and Lady X. What did you say for them?
Biathlon.
Oh, Lavender's Green Dylan Dun?
Pickleball.
No Constrictor?
Weightlifting.
Merit Cheap.
Table tennis.
The Fair and Fragrant Maiden Chloe.
Mm-hmm. That's a hard one. You already said archery for someone, right?
Yeah.
I did, yeah.
That seems like... Oh, yeah, equestrian.
Equestrian.
Horse
Let's play some
riding.
equestrian. Or Anthony, who's cold and hates life, liberty, and the pursuit of cheese. And Brick Red.
Volleyball.
Jiu-Jitsu Jeffrey, the Texas Ranger.
Jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I guess that one's a given. Midnight Ninja Ellen.
Basketball.
Return of the Jedediah.
That sport that kid did on the YouTube video where he was trying to do the lightsaber. Whatever.
Dave Rack and Ruin.
Fencing.
Timothy the Rider at Dawn.
Kickball.
Eric and Kate the Camp Chip Kings, who are warm and love bees.
Hiking.
Matty Matman.
Skateboarding.
Yeah. Sweet Jamie Sunshine.
Swimming.
Tyler, the Keeper of Eternal Darkness, and Laura, the Keeper of Eternal Light.
Snowboarding.
Cold Steel Cody.
Seems like he should be snowboarding. Skiing.
Jacqueline the Librarian Barbarian.
Surfing.
John Bobadillo Bomb Diggity, and Captain Tennille, his mate.
Ultimate Frisbee.
Saxophone Alex.
Disc golf.
The other Saxophone Alex and Dubstep Denny.
Only because I know he actually enjoys this sport just as much as I do. Wild caving.
Ryan the Terror of Texas and Eric of the Cream and Kimson, who are no longer stuck in the cold, but please do send cheese.
Windsurfing.
Ben Solo and Kylo Ren.
Free solo climbing.
All right, we are halfway done. John the Cosmic King of
wow.
Chaos.
Quidditch.
We are more
Are
like
you serious? We're only
3/4 of the way done.
halfway done.
No, it was a joke. Matthew the Mind Flayer.
Dog agility.
What is dog agility?
Dogs have to navigate through a course that has various types of obstacles under the direction of a handler. Oh, then it has in parentheses, not a sport.
Okay, well,
I don't know why it's in this list of sports that I have not been reading from until this exact moment.
okay, well, you picked a bad moment and place in the list. Annie, are
How
you
about
okay?
this?
Get your gun?
Drifting. They're for drifting.
Drifting.
Tokyo drifting.
Tokyo drifting.
Yeah,
the
Tokyo
best
drifting.
kind. Flight of the Valerie.
BMX.
Thor Ragnajosh.
Golf.
Stephen ...
Scuba diving.
Peglodon.
And what's the oldest of all sports? Running. Track and field.
What's the oldest of all sports?
Pegalodon. That sounds like dinosaurs.
That's true. Christopher the Flower Hulk.
Wrestling.
Lady of the Crystal Lake.
Lady of the Crystal Lake. Ooh, tournament jousting.
Tournament Jousting. Ian the Death of Marion, Lord of Death.
Muay Thai.
Emily H. Sorry, Emily Nightshade, the Hunter of Dreams, I should say.
Just because this is what makes me laugh. Finish Skittles. Opposing
Like what you
players
do when you
take
have a big
turns
bowl
to
of
knock
Skittles in
down
front of
their
you?
Opponent's Skittles.
Huh.
And I will leave you the rest of your imagination because I don't know what that means.
I do. Observe. After Nathan names the next person.
Yeah, okay. Sorry. The next person is coming. I lost the list. There we go. All About the Benjamin.
Bowling.
Mysterious Phantom.
Oh, this is me? Oh, man. What's appropriate for the Mysterious Phantom? What's that thing where they spin the ribbons? Ribbon dancing.
It's that thing where they dance and there's ribbons. Jeremy, the Dark-Hooded Lord of Death, and of course his brooding bride, Maya!
Pool.
Yeah,
Cool.
he's cool enough for pool.
All right, guys, I have a few new ones to introduce here, so get your sports ready. But I have to figure out who they are because I think there's two of them, and I only have one listed here, which I believe is a mistake.
I feel like we've missed some major sports here.
Yeah, I
We've
mean, I don't think
avoided
we ever-
rugby and soccer and maybe baseball.
Yeah, I don't think we said baseball. I don't think we said America's pastime.
It's, DMM, David's Mighty Men Trucking. They got baseball.
Did they?
And appropriately so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
The only one who would be more fitting is if Jake were patron.
Let's see here. Okay. Yep. Okay. I have two new ones.
Okay.
Well, I think so. Yeah. All right. So New one, number 1. We have yet another Jay to introduce to the fold.
Okay.
So he needs a name. Let me think. Welcome, Jay. Thank you for supporting the podcast.
Jailbird, Jaybird Crow.
Jailhouse Rock.
Blue Jay.
No, because we were going to do that book and then didn't.
What's a cool book with or movie title with the name Day? That it could be Jaybreak, Jay of the Dead. It's probably something along those lines. Jay of Thunder.
Remains of the Jay.
Remains of the J. Remains of the J ain't bad.
Remains of the J.
Remains of the J. I like Remains of the J.
The J at the races.
A J at the races.
Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery J. Groundhog J.
I do like Groundhog J, and I like Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery J. But what was the actual not total piece of crap that we came up with a second ago?
Remains of the J.
Remains of the J. Okay. Yeah, that's good. Remains of the J. All right. And we also have, let's give a hearty.
He's a bass fisher, by the way.
Jay? Oh, we're right. Yeah. It's all about the bass. The bass. Okay. Abram and Sarah. Welcome to Abram and Sarah.
Hey, Abram and Sarah.
Welcome to supporting the podcast.
Hey.
And let's see.
Association football.
Association football. Excellent choice. But what should their names be?
Did we ever do anything for Remains of the J? Or is he going to be last?
No, Jay.
He's bass fishing.
He's bass fishing. That's why I sang all about the bass.
It's Abram and Sarah?
Yeah.
That's straight from the Bible, right? So
right. Straight from the Bible. Straight Bible. Yeah, I don't know that provides a name. Father Abram.
They're Canaan bound.
Abram and Sarah. Does Abram
Hess around?
Ram? Is there a pun here? Abram and Sarah are hard names to pun. They don't really rhyme with much.
Abram and Sarah, who don't really rhyme with much.
Abram, we might have to work on that one.
Abram the
Strong.
Sarah the Wrong.
Yeah, Abram the Strong and Sarah the Wrong. That's good.
Abram the Door Jam is listed as a Door Jam.
Abram the Door Jam and
Abram the Program.
Abram the Door Jam and Sarah who makes jam.
Abram the Wild Yam. Abram the Tam Tam.
Abram the Tam Tam. I think we got it.
I'm sorry.
Boy.
People are seeing how the sausage is made, guys.
Abram. What does Bram rhyme with?
Bam.
Dam?
Cam.
Spam?
Clam. Cram.
Cram.
Yam. Flam. Gram. Jam. Ham. Lamb. Mam. Pam. Pram.
Abraham
Sam,
Stoker
Ram,
and
Scam,
Sarah, his undead bride.
Scram.
None of those things are really...
Sham. Slam.
You guys not just
Spam.
listen to hear my wonderful suggestion?
Wham.
Yeah,
Bam.
we heard it.
I'm going to say it again. Abraham
Swam.
Stoker and Sarah, his undead bride.
Abram Stoker and Sarah, his undead bride. That's pretty lame, I have to say. What about Abram? What are movie title? Like, there's Damn Yankees. It could be Abram Yankees. There's not a lot of puns here. United States of Sarah. Man, this one's tough.
What do we know about them?
Well, he's a dentist.
Okay.
And she's a housewife, I think.
He's the
Abram the Tooth Puller.
fairy. The keeper of teeth.
The keeper
Abram,
of...
the keeper of Abram,
What's
puller of teeth.
the riddle about teeth? 30 whatever
30
horses on a red hill.
First they champ, then they stamp, then they stand still.
Abram, you can't handle the tooth. He can't handle the tooth. Abram, who can handle the tooth. And Sarah.
Abram, the puller of teeth, and Sarah, his bride.
The teether of...
The teether of pool.
Pool.
Abram, the teether of pool, and Sarah, his bride.
All right, I think we're going to have to workshop this one. You guys are going to have an amazing name by next time.
No.
But we won't make anyone out listen to it anymore. So for today, we'll give you the lame name of Abram, the puller of teeth, and Sarah, the teether of pull. That sucks. I'm ashamed to leave it there.
I love it. I think it's great.
Okay, Brandon loves it. He's eating popcorn. I think that means it's time to go. All right. Somebody say something clever.
Something clever.
Something clever.